Jett Lawrence and Justin Cooper join a list of riders who will not be able to line up at the 2022 Supercross season opener due to injury. Steve Scuba Westfall, the team manager of the Rockstar Energy Husqvarna team, steps down from his role. We have a very complete list of who will be racing which region in the 250 class, all the way from factory teams to support, satellite, down to the privateers. We have other members of the industry leaving their team jobs and other injuries to talk about. I'm your host, Michael Lindsay. This is This Week in Moto, presented by Yoshimura. Starting off with some news that will probably go public right about the time this video is released, Jett Lawrence will not be lining up for the West region for the HRC Honda team as originally suspected. As the list came out for the provisional about a week ago, Jett Lawrence was listed to race at Anaheim 1, which led us all to believe that his brother Hunter Lawrence would race the East region for the HRC Honda team. But it is going to come out that just recently, Jett has had a crash and has received multiple broken ribs. With this, he is of course able to somewhat ride at the moment, but is pushing off his series debut until the East region at the 7th round in Minneapolis, Minnesota. This means that his brother Hunter, who is ready and prepared at the moment to race, will swap out and take his spot at the West region and race this weekend at Anaheim 1. Also on that injured list, but to a much greater degree, is Justin Cooper. We all believed that the Monster Energy star Yamaha racing rider would initially defend his West Coast title, but within the last week or so, it became somewhat clear that the team would actually swap him and Colt Nichols for reasons of performance that they believed that each would be better off riding the other coast this year. But now it has gone a bit worse for Justin, who looks like he will not even be able to line up for the East Coast region in about 7 weeks as he has suffered major injuries to one of his feet. He had a crash yesterday resulting from crashing on a main triple at the Yamaha test track here in California, which resulted in 4 of 5 metatarsals in his foot being broken, a Linz-Frank fracture, and then also some other damage to the center of his foot we believe to maybe be his navicular bone. It has placed him in a situation where he thinks he'll be off the bike for 5 to 6 months, and a lot of the injuries we have listed are typically in the 3 to 4 month range for no weight bearing. This, as we said, puts Justin Cooper completely out of contention for Supercross, but also jeopardizes his outdoor season as well, as he will probably just be getting back on the bike right about the time Hangtown rolls around. This also puts it into a unique situation for Justin Cooper as he won the title last year on the West region, meaning by AMA rules, he is only allowed to defend his title one time, meaning this would have been his final year in 250 Supercross and would move to the 450 class in 2023. There is, however, nothing in the rulebook related to provisionals about injuries and missing the season, so there may be an opportunity for Justin and his team to petition for him to be allowed to race the 2023 season in 250 Supercross if he is unable to line up this year. But as we said, there is nothing really in the rulebook about this, so it is unclear if the AMA will allow this. There are other riders coming into Anaheim 1 that are also injured. Adam Cianciarulo announced this week that yes, as many have speculated, he did have a major crash a few weeks ago and is riding now with an injured shoulder. To be exact, AC has a level 3 AC separation in his shoulder, which is, from what most orthopedics would probably say, is kind of on that verge of needing surgery or not, depending on so many other factors relating to, their strength and what other injuries lie in the shoulder. Adam believes that he is going to be able to race and has been riding as of the last few days, and he will line up at A1, albeit now we know that he is lining up a little bit behind the 8 ball in terms of current strength. Adam was hopeful in yesterday's press conference that due to the amount of laps he's logged this offseason and the improvements in the bike, that he will still be fairly competitive at the beginning of the season and hopefully be able to put in a good full run in 2022. In other East versus West Coast news, Star Racing Yamaha is going to continue on with their plan for Colt Nichols to race the West Coast. This is a little bit surprising, as we mentioned prior in the video, that they were swapping Nichols and Justin Cooper from their defending coast and running their number 1 plates for reasons of performance that they were looking for to try to ensure that they'd win both regions. They felt like Nichols would be better on the West Coast, dirt, and that Cooper would be better on East, considering that last year, yes, they won the opposing coast, but all the tracks were East Coast based, technically with the issues that COVID presented us for a schedule. Now, with the injury to Justin Cooper, we thought maybe they would allow Nichols to switch back to East Coast and defend that number 1 plate, because there's also some questions with Star Racing's East Coast lineup, which we will get into. But for now, they have announced that Colt Nichols will race the West Coast alongside Christian Craig and Nate Thrasher, giving them a lineup of all past winners on this coast, with Colt Nichols being a defending champion, Christian Craig nearly winning the championship last year against Nichols, and Nate Thrasher in only his second year of Supercross, coming off the prior season where he had 2 race wins. Moving to East Coast, this is where it gets a little bit questioning. The Star Racing squad is going racing with Jeremy Martin and Levi Kitchen, who have both had late starts to their offseason prep. Kitchen initially started Supercross prep early and had an injury, and had to take a large chunk of kind of that base training part of the offseason that we saw the rest of the team on off, and announced that he would instead be racing the East Coast. Jeremy Martin had injuries throughout all last year that we saw, and he finally took the time at the end of the season to get all fixed up and had a very late start to his offseason prep, meaning both these riders had to be pushed to the East region. This begs the question why we don't see Colt Nichols racing this coast, to give the Star Racing team maybe a little bit better chance at ensuring they're going to take both titles. Even though the Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki team has not announced their lineup, it is somewhat clear that they will likely go with Joe Shimoda and Seth Hamaker on the West Coast. Joe has had a great offseason, has been on the bike for quite a bit now, along with Seth Hamaker, while their teammates Cameron McAdoo, Jett Reynolds, and Austin Faulkner have all had incidents in the offseason that has led them to be East Coast, or in the case of Jett Reynolds, he may not make Supercross at all with a hip or pelvis area injury a few weeks back. Faulkner had a concussion that we are aware of from a crash at a public Supercross track a few weeks ago. McAdoo also crashed the same day, but got away relatively unharmed from what we're aware of, but still, the team will push those 2 riders to the East Coast and give them a few more weeks to get ready. The BarX Suzuki team looks to split their 4-man team that was originally all to be scheduled for the West Coast to a 2-man West and East region effort, with Carson Mumford and Dylan Schwartz racing the West Coast, and Preston Kilroy and Derek Drake racing East. KTM has opted to move Maximus Volan and his all-new KTM Factory Edition bike that he just received to East Coast. We don't see any off-season injury reason, just the lack of time on the new bike. It would be good for Volan to race East Coast. Factory Red Bull KTM from Canada will also be sending down Jess Pettis to race on the East region. The Rockstar Energy Husqvarna squad with their 3-man 250 team has opted to go with 1 rider on the West Coast with Jalek Swoll, and placing Styles Robertson and their premier rider RJ Hampshire on the East Coast for this upcoming season. The Red Bull Gas team has chosen to go with Michael Moseman for West Coast, and placing their other rider Pierce Brown on the East region. There is a multitude of Honda support teams running the West Coast, with their premier support team being the Phoenix Racing Squad, with a large lineup of Kyle Peters, Colin Park, Josh Osby, and Cody Schock all lining up at the East region come Minneapolis. They will also be joined by the Firepower Honda squad, which last year was known as Muck-Off Honda, with Jordan Smith and Jarrett Fry, Jarrett coming over from the Star Racing program after being left without a ride in this offseason. The SGB Honda team will also operate a 3-man East Coast team alongside their 450 squad with Jace Kessler, Jeremy Han, and Luke Neese. The Tylube Storm Lake Honda squad will also be back next year. We aren't 100% sure on their lineup for East Coast. We do know that Hunter Yoder will be riding for the team. We also believe that Grant Harlan and Isaiah Clark will join him under their awning come Minneapolis. The Club MX Yamaha team has made quite a bit of strides this offseason and grown their program. They will be operating a 2-man West team and a 3-man East Coast team. Their 2-man West Coast region will be headed up by Garrett Marchbanks, along with German rider Nick Thury. Coming in East Coast will be a couple riders that are there due to injury and needing more time to prep, with Phil Nicoletti and Jace Owen both coming off of knee injuries and pushing their schedule back to the Minneapolis round. And then alongside them will be a returning rider for the team after a season away is Brazilian Enzo Lopes. Also on the West Coast this year is a brand new team with the AEO Powersports Racing KTM Squad. This is a very large chain of dealerships for KTM, headed up by a crew that loves racing, including their suspension technician, ex-Red Bull KTM guy, or suspension guru, Mark Johnson, helping out the effort. They will line up with what was originally supposed to be a 3-man West Coast team featuring Austin Black, Ty Masterpool, and Derek Kelly. Both Ty Masterpool and Austin Black have suffered injuries this offseason and as such have been replaced by Carson Brown, the pit bike legend himself. This means the team will instead just race West Coast with a two-man team, with Brown and Kelly riding the bikes. The Nuclear Blast Solitaire Yamaha team is back this year, keeping pace with Wageman and also bringing new to the team Ryan Surratt. The AJ Motul Gas Squad is also returning for 2022, being headed up by veteran and Arizona native Chris Bloss, who has recently announced actually his own suspension company called Phoenix Suspension, a Racetech subsidiary, Racetech Service Center to be exact, along with Mitchell Falk and Mitchell Harrison. The Moto Concepts Smart Top Squad will also run a 250 program again this year after many years out of the class, with Vince Freeze lining up for the West region and Mitchell Oldenburg lining up for the East Coast. However, both of those riders will race a 450 on the opposite coast, of which coast they race a 250F. There's also a slew of other small support teams and many privateers that we know their current coast layout. And if you'd like to check those out, hit the link below to jump onto the article on vitalmx.com where we have it all laid out. It's nice and easy to read, and you can break down how deep the competition is on each field. And we'd actually like to hear your opinion on which coast do you feel like is more stacked this year and will produce better racing. As we mentioned before, the Lawrence brothers are holding their own press conference this week in Costa Mesa, where they will have a track built outside the South Coast Plaza Mall, one of the most famous malls here in California. They will be putting on their own press conference, meeting and greeting with fans, and overall, it's quite a cool event when you consider that since the maybe heyday of the late 90s, early 2000s, when Jeremy McGrath and Ricky Carmichael appeared on The Tonight Show, this is one of the first major events to be held outside of the stadium press conferences to support and grow the sport. Both riders are going to support this event on their own social media, and there will be streaming, but if you're local, it's free. It's going to be cool to come out and hang out at. Also in the news this week was Steven Scuba Westfall, the Rockstar Husqvarna team manager, is leaving his post after the first couple rounds of this season. I actually had the opportunity to speak with Scuba on the Pulp MX show this week, and he shared that something I can relate to from running my own team is, man, the stress levels are extremely high. It's hard on the family and the travel is, and he's taking a step back in the choice of providing a better future or family experience for himself, his kids, and his wife. Huge respect to you, Scuba. You've been a stablemate in the pits for years now, won multiple championships, and you have led a team that I would say is very much a family. You see very little movement in the Rockstar Husky team from their staff side, and they've really banded together and produced amazing results over the past few years. That's it for this week in Moto, presented by Yoshimura. Everything we spoke about in this video can be found on the Vital MX homepage or in our forum, where we're the source of pretty much any breaking news in the motocross industry. If you like this feature, make sure you give us a like, a subscribe, thumbs up, and stay tuned for more as we enter Anaheim 1 and we give you all the best race coverage that we can put out.